New year, new me. I knew at the end of 2018 that there were going to be some big changes for me going into 2019. There's a song that goes, I can't see a single storm cloud in the sky, but I sure can smell the rain. That ran through my head as the bells rang in the new year, and the smell of bourbon was pretty heavy on my breath. It was a damn good night, though.
New year, new me.
Every decision we make, for good or for worse, has some reaction beyond the scope of that initial choice. You do what you can for yourself, while idealistically minimalizing the burdens for others. It is, after all, part of why the show came into existence, as I want to share my stories and my experiences about growing up a geek and all that has to surround it.
New year, new me.
Is it really though? I mean, it's more like new look, same great taste, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm looking forward to 2020 and what it'll bring, but what's really changing? Sure, you have to buy some new calendar, and okay, they're nice enough to give you the last 4 months of 2019 on it to kind of remind you of, I'm not really sure, come to think of it. Perhaps it's a reminder of how quickly or how slowly time passes?
New year, new me.
No, it's not a new me. I've made mistakes in my past, and a lot of 2019 was the dramatic epilogue of 2018's failures. After all, it's how I knew 2019 was going to be full of changes. I'm not that clever, despite my best efforts. What I do know is that, while a lot has indeed changed, I am who I am because of those lessons learned. I am who I am because of my interests, my passions, my hobbies, and my experiences. It's why I feel the show has been such a wonderful labor of love for me. It's why the America's Next Top Podcaster contest, as much as I've had issues with it, was still a vital learning process, and it's why I'm excited for what lies ahead. Truth be told, I've not waited for the new year to make better decisions anyway. Why should any of us? Why should you? Why even wait until tomorrow? Find your passion. Find your geek. Find what makes you, you. And not a new you, but a better you. Happy New Year, and remember that adventure awaits.
So I've sat down and tried to formulate this year in review thing about a half a dozen times with varying degrees of absolute trash. Artistically writing about the winds of change to ragging on myself for the new year, new me bullshit. Truth be told, 2019 was and will probably be one of the most formative years in my life. To give you an idea, I am currently just metaphorical goo in the cocoon sack of life. In 2019, I hit a point of depression with myself and with my own small world. Luckily, I had the ability and strength to seek out some professional help along with the support of loved ones, and thus made some pretty large life changes. Those changes resulted in some equivalent large, good, and tough times for myself. I am now a single 34-year-old female that is navigating life on my own for realistically the first time. A rather large chunk of the positivity of 2019 falls on the shoulders of this podcast. Grey Muzzle Geekery represents a resurgence of my creativity that otherwise had laid dormant for a considerable amount of time. The success of this little cast gave me the confidence, maybe a bit more stupidity than confidence, to submit for America's Next Top Podcaster competition. The competition ended up being a substantial gift and surprise. It gave me an outlet to connect with some pretty amazing and talented people that I otherwise would never have crossed paths with. It provided me a much needed creative distraction, while without it might have fallen victim to previously established bad habits and darker demons. It will now be a reoccurring segment, but adventure awaits has really become a mantra for myself. Part of happiness is always having something to look forward to. 2019 had moments of adventure that were unforgettable and fantastic, but here's to 2020. Here's to more adventures. Here's to more memories made with passionate geeks from all walks of life that will make every adventure worth a story.
"10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck."
People keep asking if I'm back, and I haven't really had an answer. But now, yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Guess who's back? Back again.
I'm back! I'm back! I'm back! I'm back! I'm back!
I'm back.
Beware, I live.
Hello, boys!
Hi there, welcome to Gray Muzzle Geekery for the week of December 30th, 2019, episode 34? Season 2. Hi, I'm Dusty Red, and with me as always...
I'm Dusty White.
And we'll get right into this week's Season 2?
Season 2, Gray Muzzle Boogaloo. Duh.
So this is kind of we're back after our little adventure through Brian Ibbott's Twisted World. And here we are. Going to start doing our weekly uploads again and making ourselves the dominant presence on the internet.
I want you to know by saying the Twisted World of Brian Ibbott, I did see his bald head as Cheshire Cat style.
Just grinning?
Yes.
Just muahaha. So, there's going to be some changes to the show, as we hinted before, and there's going to be a couple surprises and other things in the mix, and we're going to segment things a little bit now. We're going to have some segments, like a worm, or a spider, or what else has segments?
Our show.
Okay, our show. So, as always, though, the segment we have to keep, let's get into this week's news. News. On Thursday, December 12th, the winners of the Video Game Awards were announced, and, well, here are some of the winners. So the best strategy game was Fire Emblem 3 Houses for the Nintendo Switch. Have you ever played any of the Fire Emblem games?
I can't say that I have.
I played a little bit on the what did I have? The little handheld Game Boy Advanced, I think it was. I had it.
Was it colored?
I had a non-colored Game Boy.
I did too.
All right then.
AKA the brick.
Playing Quark, was it? The little tomato Quark that went around. He had like a maze type game.
You mean Qbert?
Qbert, I know. I played that back in the day. But it was Quark. It was like a little tomato dude. And you had to like push these blocks to kind of like get to an object. It was a puzzle or that.
Oh, okay.
An old game. But yeah, so congratulations. We have for the best racing game, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. Yeah, you heard me. Crash. Crash is back. Crash Bandicoot is still, like, having games out. That can be found for the PS4, Xbox, and the Switch.
Where's my F-Zero, damn it?
Falcon Punch. So we also have for the best RPG, Disco Elysium for PS4, Xbox, and PC. I have not played this one, though I've had a couple friends like really poke at me and be like, you need to get this. It is a really good detective game with a kind of a steampunk vibe going on.
Okay, interesting.
We have for the best AR/VR game, Beat Saber.
Oh, I didn't see that one coming at all.
PlayStation 4, Oculus Quest, and for the PC. Beat Saber. I mean, you see it everywhere. Everybody's walking around, especially now with all the Star Wars being everywhere all the time.
Of course.
The fact that you get your groove on with some lightsabers going, whoa, 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 ooh, step.
I just want people to know that rave kids have been doing those moves for a long time before there was a game called Beat Saber.
I mean, it's just a light stick on a string. That's all a lightsaber is, right? Just whoa, 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 whoa. You hit somebody to get
high-powered glow sticks. That's really all it is.
Road flares. We have our best multiplayer game, which is fitting that we're going to go with this one, as seeing as we kind of started our show on this. Apex Legends.
Of course.
For PC, Xbox, and PS4. I stopped playing it after like a month or two when I realized I suck at first-person shooters. And unfortunately, there's like a steep curve. It's one of those things where you like play and then you get your butt kicked and then you play and you either get good.
Right.
Which is you dedicate a lot of time to getting good.
Or memorization or applying your factors in your studies to it or whatever.
Or you become somebody else's kill count to help them look
get good.
So I opted to not do that. But yeah, no, Apex Legends took Best Multiplayer Award. Best Fighting Game.
Ooh.
And I know you like fighting games.
I mean, it can't be Mortal Kombat 2 all over again.
No.
So
Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Of course.
Of course. I mean, duh.
Don't they win every year they come out with one?
I mean, it's such a popular game.
I feel like it's also a niche market, though.
I think it's, reverse. I think it is handcuffed by its popularity, so it's not going to be a terribly in-depth fighting game. You're not going to have something that's going to be a very technical. Like, I don't see
follow
Smash
the people that release it follow a very specific formula.
Kind of. And I think the kind of game, there's a little bit more hectic to it, where some of the games like Mortal Kombat, some of the games like Tekken, some of those games had more of a formulaic. And I'm sure there's going to be a professional gamer that's going to be like, you're full of shit, and blah, blah, blah. But generally on the outside, you can see Smash Brothers being a little bit more of a chaotic game, more of a group game, more of a kind of button masher to a degree you can get away with.
Hey, don't judge
you
me.
Can mash
Don't kink shame me.
I'm not kink shaming. my thing of chocolate pudding. That's a topic for later. But yeah, so they've won Super Smash Brothers, and then esports game of the year, as usual, League of Legends.
Okay, yeah.
And then the game of the year and action/adventure game of the year. So it actually took home both titles, but more importantly, took home the game of the year title, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice, which is the Japanese samurai style game, much akin to Dark Souls. It's
got it. I figured that's
super dark difficulty, the story, adventure mode. Yeah, they took game of the year, rightfully so. Everybody I've talked to that's played it, I've not played it. Everybody I talked to that's played it, just again, an amazing game, super detailed, really hard though.
Okay.
And spurred those questions back in the day of, should games have easy modes? We kind of talked about that before. Should a game have an easy mode? Should it not? And this is definitely a game that goes, get good or put me down.
Right.
And so, there we go. We have our top games, and congratulations to the crew at Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice for taking home Game of the Year.
Step aside, Napster. There are 2 new pirates on the cell block now. 2 of the minds behind the nation's largest pirate streaming service, iStreamItAll, and Jetflix, have pleaded guilty to criminal copyright infringement charges. Daryl Julios Polo and Luis Angel Villarino, both from Las Vegas, are guilty of pirating over 319,000 episodes of television, which add up to more content than all other major streaming services combined. All the while circumventing copyright laws and, per the Department of Justice, estimates could amount to millions of dollars.
So 319,000 episodes?
Episodes of television does not include iStreamItAll, over 10,000 movies.
So, but I'm focusing on the 319,000 episodes, which really means they have 318,000 episodes of One Piece.
One Piece?
And then the other, 1,000 is Fairy Tale. Got it. So basically they got caught for pirating 2 shows.
At least 300 of those episodes are Friends.
The one with, they pirated all the TV shows.
I mean, for the fact that they have pleaded guilty is that they're not going to try and claim that they didn't do this. And they were all based on, keep in mind, this is a money streaming industry too. So they got people to subscribe to their basically dark web internet streaming service and paid them a monthly fee for all of these episodes of whatever was on there.
So they're either going to jail for a very, very, very long time, or somebody's going to hire them.
I was going to see there would be the next executive people for Netflix.
Or, I mean, depending on it, does the details have like how in-depth their rig was or whatnot? Because this is something where you have something like the FBI or some sort of governmental services take these guys in and be like,
okay, how did you do this?
How'd you do this?
Right.
How'd you get away with it for this long, not being caught? Or what allowed you to do this? Do they get capped? Or is it just something as simple as they had a lot of servers in their basement, was able to
They probably backdoored it from whoever knows what. I mean,
so
do you even get on the dark web?
I barely have the light web. What are you talking about? I've got Comcast. Like, Jesus. What kind of services do you expect me to get here? Well, I mean, that's... Whew, I think they're going to jail for a long, long time.
Most likely.
All right. Speaking of streaming, if you have Disney Plus or share an account in a poly-streamerist relationship, you have to have seen The World According to Jeff Goldblum. You see, it seems that Jeff Goldblum here has attended an event at the Twin Mask live-action role-playing game found in Southern California, in Corona, California to be exact. And, well, Disney's not wrong. It is a small world after all, as Twin Mask LARP is actually owned and run by the relatives of some friends of the show, Patty and Dan. So John and Angela Bassett run and own Twin Mask LARP. Here, Goldblum kind of learned about how to take a hit, how to use some of the theater elements for their game, which seems to be a more theater and more role play heavy
More thematic.
game. More of a thematic, but when you get hit, you don't just take a hit and go. It's you get hit in the arm and you lose your arm. It's you get hit in the chest, you die. It is a much more thematic and more elaborate in that terms of, oh, you stab me, I'm dying, follow-up type thing, which is fitting for Jeff Goldblum, who's going to act the living crap out of his death. And surprise, surprise, he even does a bit of the Judy Hopps of blood, death, and falls over. So, what do you think about Jeff Goldblum, of all people, doing this? Like, is this doing this a service or a disservice of having...
I will reserve my right to make judgment past actually seeing the episode. I haven't seen it yet. So I think knowing what I know of Jeff Goldblum, and I wouldn't say I'm not a fan. I think he's a very unique individual and has his own spin on certain things.
And I think the last thing we've seen him on really was Hot Ones.
Right.
So you got to see his ooh, ah, ee, ooh, ah. Like his weirdness.
His little baby bites of the wings because
yeah.
he didn't want to damage his voice.
Which makes sense because he's a jazz singer. So as much as I thought it was ridiculous, like he was worried about the spiciness kind of messing up his throat. And
right.
If he had a performance that night, I wouldn't want to go in. Like Rachel Ray, if I'm not mistaken, canceled an episode of one of her shows because she decided to tablespoon these hot sauces.
Exactly.
And ruin her day. So it makes sense.
I think Jeff Goldblum could do some interesting justice to LARP because it can be played by somebody that has got a little bit more theater in their blood, or I think he does it good justice because he gets the concept of a LARP and maybe hams it up just a little, but
It's a
enough
show,
to
sure.
understand that he's not going in there as like Adam Savage or Mythbuster style and be like, we're gonna break the third wall or the fourth wall of this.
I might
thing.
disagree though, because Adam Savage is a good example of someone who will go into a LARP, into a con, into a thing, and go full bore with it. Adam Savage does cons all the time, and he has costumes and stuff like
True.
that. So I could see someone like Savage actually getting really involved in it. I think Goldblum would be an interesting case here. Do you think his popularity, his resurgence of popularity with a younger audience, is going to be one of those benefits where you don't have, like, he is so disconnected from reality that he connects on the other side of it.
Right.
Like, he is so out there and so weird and so bizarre, but he's got a younger fan base because of the way he dresses, because of his style, because of, like, he seems like a cool uncle. Not quite creepy uncle. He has some creepy uncle vibe. But realistically, like, cool uncle. Hey, we're going over to Uncle Jeff's house, and he's going to either sing a jazz song of some sort or pull out an old VHS or maybe a retro video game or a retro board game.
And now they can hit us with PvP, like a PVC pipe.
So he seems like someone that would be really weird and interesting. Do you see him, like, being a good, I don't want to say ambassador, but with that new resurgence that obviously with Thor Ragnarok really spiked him with his performance in that, spiked his popularity again. And then kind of retroing with him in Jurassic Park and all this other stuff. Do you see old Jeff coming back to kind of appeal to a younger audience, maybe skipping over our age, so to speak, skipping over that 30s and kind of reappealing to the 20-year-olds and the younger 20s that are like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
We're
He's
like,
so
oh yeah,
weird.
we remember him from The Fly, and we remember him from, trying to be sexy in Jurassic Park. He's
Right.
lying there with his shirt open, just like, yes. So, and even, was it David Duchovny playing as him on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
So, like, we see that and the weirdness that is there, and it's just like, ooh, okay, whatever, it's Goldblum. Do you see him appealing to this younger audience and them going, he's doing this LARP thing, let's give it a shot.
Maybe. I see him adding popularity to it because let's be fair. Let's 100% be honest here. Any publicity is good publicity. I would be interested. I would be interested to see how again, I reserve my right to judge past the watching of the episode.
Sure.
to see how they actually filmed it, if it's more documentary style, or if it's just, hey, let's go check this thing out. This is something that people do.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to looking and watching the episode, and who knows, we may actually have a little surprise after we watch it. We might know some peoples and get some conversations going. To be continued.
Skynet will now tell you if your password is involved in a data breach. Okay, not really, but close enough. Chrome will now automatically scan your passwords. Google's password checkup will be fully integrated into desktop and mobile versions of Chrome 79. Google figures that since it already has a big encrypted database of all your passwords, that it should compare them against 4 billion strong public list of compromised usernames and passwords that have been breached over the years, prompting you to think about changing your information.
Creepy. I mean, it already kind of does. Like, you want me to save your password? Like, not really.
I think I've used it maybe 2 or 3 times just on websites that I know I don't go to very often. Like, I know I kind of use it for when I go to request days off or vacation at work, just because I don't normally do that every week. But anything that I know I'm going on more than 2 or 3 times a week, I don't have them remind me.
Do you... Like, it's cool and it's interesting. It seems like it'll help an older generation for sure. People that don't want to remember passwords and do all that. And if they're gonna...
They just want password 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, admin, password. Like...
God.
I could see that being useful. I mean... Any form of security, I guess, is good security. Are you willing to give up that information to... Because obviously, do you have to worry about Google being breached? That'd be pretty hard, but it's possible. Nothing's ever truly safe.
Well,
is it better than a Post-it note on your monitor?
I think it's interesting because nowadays, who's to know what websites you go to are also involved, or the corporate umbrella of, I go to this website who's owned by this company, who's owned by this company, and that company had the data breach. You might be going to a website that has nothing to do with what you think it might go to.
I don't want Pornhub to know all of my passwords, though. Who am I kidding? They already do.
But I'm just saying, if you are going to, like you said, the older generation, if you're going to some of those websites and you're asking Google to remember your password, and then 4 or 5 months later, you may or may not go to another website that's affiliated with another company, that suddenly it's going, your username and password is invalid and part of a data breach, and then you start freaking out because you're like, okay, I've never been to this website before. How does it know how do they know it's a data breach?
Sure. And again, this is, I feel, more geared toward as a little bit of an older generation that may have Google Chrome or whatnot, where people don't, like, people already rely on their computer to memorize their passwords for them.
Right.
Like, they don't manually type it in every single time. You type in your username, and then Google has already, or Chrome has already, like, saved it and puts it in for you. So, again, is it a bad thing? There's a level of where you have to ask of how much security are you willing to, or how much privacy are you willing to give up for convenience. And I had an uncle that hated GPSs and hated a lot of stuff because he did not want any information to be given up. And it's a case of, I get it, boomer. And he wanted to, like, he hated any of his information being given up, where now we're starting to see a generation where you have some people, like you had my uncle that hated any information being given up. Do not trust the government at all.
Right.
Which is funny because he served in the Army.
But maybe that's why he knew better.
Maybe. But he would not trust the government, but he would die for it. Okay. And then you go, okay, then you have a generation after that that's, you know what, I'm willing to give up some information. You could have my last name and my address, but you're not getting a social security number, you're not getting a credit card information, you're not getting that.
Right.
Now you have a younger generation that's like, yeah, here's my credit card info, here's my social security number, here's where my location is to my friends at all times.
So for me, I've always, and I've kind of mentioned it before, I listen to a lot of conspiracy podcasts and just out there kind of mindset. I kind of figured, I mean, everyone's like, oh, NSA's been listening to us all along.
Do I need to go get the sheet metal sombrero?
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of have this thing of everybody going up in arms about NSA. Oh, they've been listening to us. They've been recording us. And I went, yes, and... I kind of already assumed that was happening. So maybe I am part of that younger generation of, yeah, I give my name and address, and yeah, I know that companies sell it, and I've been part of Jules,
My Mix program
from like forever ago when I was 18 and able to drive. Like, it is what it is. And
that is by far one of the worst announced and worst, known program.
Oh, that they said they've been data mining us since forever?
But I'm not part of it. I'm not part of it, but I didn't even know it existed.
Really?
They're like, are you part of the My Mix? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the hell's a My Mix rewards? Oh, no.
Grocery stores are notorious for being able to data mine and sell your shit.
I had a regular Jewel card when we had the actual cards.
Yeah.
But when they switched over to My Mix, they made it like digital
your phone
stuff.
number.
I just never did it.
Oh, yeah.
I just had the card, we don't do the card no more. I'm like, well, then I guess I'm going to Dominic's. Dominic's is closed. I guess I'm going...
somewhere where you're not selling my information.
I'm going to have a victory garden in my backyard.
Okay, boomer.
Got him.
So it's interesting to think about how advanced something like Google Chrome can get and think about the repercussions of that. It's very interesting to think where that goes in the future.
So how much info are you willing to give up for convenience?
Fair.
That's what it boils down to. And I guess that'll conclude this week's news. So let us get into a new segment, one I think you're pretty excited about.
Down the Rabbit Hole. Down the Rabbit Hole was an idea slated by Red that sometimes he finds himself going down a rabbit hole when it comes to certain topics.
Wikipedia, YouTube, Twitter, Vine, whatever.
Right. I kind of jumped onto this idea because I used to also go down a per se rabbit hole when I found myself not understanding a certain topic. Again, using YouTube or Wikipedia as a good example. I still find myself doing it when I'm listening to other podcasts and it comes across something I don't understand. This week's rabbit hole is YouTube, C.O.P.A, and you.
C.O.P.A, banana? Banana? Pajama? Jamma? Go down to piano, rama, jamma. Anyway.
Not that C.O.P.A.
Okay. So what exactly is C.O.P.A?
So for those that may not understand, C.O.P.A stands for the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, a law created in 1998 to protect the privacy of children under the age of 13. Basically, digital entities are restricted from collecting personal info from quote-unquote users aged under 13 without the express permission of their parents or legal guardians.
And that express consent comes from, at the time that the law was written, a letter or a fax to the owner of this website or the company, because again, they didn't have things like YouTube or these massive, make the Pornhub joke again, but don't have these massive websites and stuff. It was all individual websites like, Hasbro.com.
They're media aggregators.
Absolutely.
So basically what C.O.P.A is going to enact come January 1st of 2020, so of the airing of this episode, that YouTube channels be held responsible for essentially producing things that might be shown to children.
And it's not a case necessarily shown to children, which makes it really wild. Unfortunately, YouTube has a tendency of bragging about the fact that children are literally crawling all over their website. Even though they could have protected themselves by following their initial statement of saying, hey, you need to be 13 or older to be on YouTube.
Right.
You could be on YouTube for children.
Being younger than the age of 13.
Being under the age of 13. And then those shows or those channels, those YouTubers, provide a specific kind of content that is not for children and is clearly not advertising to them.
Right.
What that is obviously a gray market. I mean, you have stuff like Baby Shark and all that stuff. That would be for YouTube for children because it's a song and it's goofy things.
It's clearly being made for children.
So the issue that we have is that YouTube turned around, even though they said on one hand went, you have to be 13 or older to use YouTube.
Oh, and you mean parents have to be held responsible for actually understanding that their children are watching things that maybe they should not be watching?
But that is what YouTube originally stipulated was, if you're under the age of 13, you have to have permission consent parental consent to come on and view this site.
Got it.
Which is fine. Then, because YouTube is run by idiots, decided to turn around and say, oh, hey, in multiple press releases, might I add, hey, we totally have kids all over our
come
regular
advertise on YouTube because we clearly have
they didn't
generated
say that. They
the
didn't
market.
Stop. No, you're putting words in their mouth.
Okay.
That's how they run is through advertising.
Right.
But the problem here is that they don't vet or haven't vetted the kids that show up on their site. And rather than them saying and sticking to their guns and saying, you cannot be under the age of 13 on our site. Because at that point, they're not held responsible by C.O.P.A.
Right.
But you can't say, hey, you have to be 13 or older to be on our site. And then in a press conference say, oh, we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds all over YouTube. And bragging about it.
Right.
Because now the government's going to go, oh, really now? And start hammering out penalties. Now, this is where YouTube is going to upturn its nose and go, oh, hey, we're just putting whatever people want.
Again, we're just some giant media aggregate.
We're just an aggregate. These people are the ones who are putting the information up. Now, what makes it a problem is that C.O.P.A is so vague on what is children's material that it's easy to confuse what is for kids versus and what is for adults.
Right.
I've watched YouTubers play Minecraft.
Right.
At what point is Minecraft not for children? What point is it for children? What point do you flag it and say you're clearly trying to market the children and then you're advertising? You do something like was it the open boxing or boxing?
The unboxing. The
unboxing of stuff, which is basically a commercial.
Correct.
You're
it's
just like,
hey, huge
look,
advertising for whatever you're unboxing.
Hey, I've got a My Little Pony or a Star Wars figurine that I'm going to unbox and show, and it's got the arm movement. You're basically running a 10-minute commercial, but if a kid is interested in this Star Wars toy, because clearly toys are for Star Wars toys are for children,
right?
Which they're not, but they are,
right?
Like, the 35-year-old dude may be interested in seeing this new Star Wars, the new Mandalorian Baby Yoda, and be like, I want 5 of those hanging in my bedroom, because he's a 35-year-old adult and could do whatever the hell he or she wants.
Right.
But a child could also watch that, because they too could be interested in something Star Wars related, which is generally for everyone. And C.O.P.A could go, you are clearly making a commercial for children. You are trying to market to a child. You are going to be held responsible for this. We are going to fine you $40,000 per episode.
Specifically, $42,000, which that YouTuber now can be fined per the last 600 episodes that they have put out.
So they could go back and go, oh, you did the My Little Pony from 2015? You unboxed that? You're fined for that too. Yep. It's to the point now where YouTubers are getting worried about their content being flagged, because you have something like PewDiePie, who's obviously a big
or what is it,
Jacksepticeye, PewDiePie, Markiplier, obviously game theorists, Matt Pat,
right? Anything
that they talk about. I mean, one of the examples Matt Pat used was the Elsa versus Snow White rap
battles.
Thankfully, they swear in that?
Oh, yes.
They swear a few times, so that's where it gets tricky. Well, that's where it gets tricky, because they swear.
They don't. if they don't swear, I have watched them in the past, so I don't want to misquote myself and say that they definitely swear. But even if they don't swear, they're still referencing adult content.
But the problem with that is do they have something or somebody in place to do the vetting? To be like, how many thousands of...
Well, honestly, we're looking at it as YouTube doesn't have the
algorithms, the manpower,
correct.
the whatever.
Ultimately, YouTube runs by algorithms. Let's not be vague or dumb here. YouTube operates per whatever algorithm that the user has set forth, and then produces whatever.
And so, how do you check and vet
the 13 or older?
Well, not even that. But how do you check the? And I don't even want to go by the potentially millions of videos uploaded per week.
Right.
The hundreds of millions of minutes per week that are put up.
That could be miscategorized as...
This is for children.
This is for children.
So it's getting to the point now where some YouTubers are even straight up saying that they're going to start their episode with a string of expletives and adult content. So then they make it very clear. And I personally would love to see one of my favorite YouTubers like come up and be like, "Hi there, it's waffle, you big fat nose piece of garbage face guzzling grundle. We're gonna talk about Minecraft, and we're gonna talk about our newest build of this castle."
So you mentioned sheet metal sombrero earlier, and I want you to know I kind of had while I was going down this rabbit hole, I kind of had my sheet metal sombrero with me.
You're not Latino. You're not Latina. You are. I mean, what is do you have your? What kind of kilt would you wear? You're kind of Portuguese. What do you got? Like kind of hat would you wear? No, you're a classy broad. You definitely got a.
So, barring that, I would just say I wonder really if this is maybe a move by big business, or, I mean, you've got to think of it. Go with me on this again, rabbit hole. So
right.
you've got your pocket watch. We're going down together. So I wonder if this is big business idea of bringing back cable, because here you have YouTube, again media conglomerate of YouTubers or artists that are now realizing, oh, we want to be held like we want to produce our own things, but we don't want to be held responsible for government things like C.O.P.A.
Ish.
Is this a kind of the backlash of that? Network TV used to handle this kind of thing as a network.
So I guess that ultimately that's my question of, do you think NBC and Fox are kind of aggregating this? Because it's not other companies that are into the advertising. Because you got to remember, that's the point of YouTube. The point of YouTube is to advertise with user content available.
Okay.
Ultimately, they are going to, I mean, from what you've watched, what we watch, Apple products show up on YouTube all the time when you're watching it.
Right.
And then it did some targeted advertising and got you some bourbon commercials and some whiskey commercials.
Very true.
So, but as much as we laugh about that, they straight up targeted you.
Yes.
They know you like to watch a lot of TV and watch a lot of shows. You are in a streamerist relationship, and you do watch a lot of TV and a lot of Hulu and a lot of these shows through these other mediums, and also enjoy bourbon and do bourbon searches and everything else. So obviously they have information on you that says this girl likes to drink and watch TV. She is our perfect candidate. So it's not going to be, Jack Daniels or Apple that's going to want to enact C.O.P.A. They're not, or enforce C.O.P.A. or push that thing. So kind of taking off the sombrero a little bit here, you kind of look and go, it could just be a bad reaction, a knee-jerk reaction with an outdated law.
I think that's honestly the bigger problem, is it's a very much outdated law being held to a
standard that doesn't fit no more.
Right. To a medium that doesn't fit anymore. In 1998,
100%.
we would have never have thought that something like YouTube or even Netflix or Hulu would have ever existed.
it takes like seconds to watch one of these videos on YouTube, to download this information and watch it, whereas it took literal days to download a 3-minute song on like LimeWire or Napster or some BS like that. So yes, you are correct in saying it's an outdated law for outdated times, and unfortunately, the legal process and legal system is just simply unable to react to the change of the internet.
Right.
I mean, that's why like cyber laws are still really difficult to deal with.
Or even enact or hold responsible for.
Because they're like, hey, we have this law from 2005 that stipulates you can't do this. And you're like...
prosecute me.
MySpace ain't a thing. What are you talking about?
Right.
So you've got... it is a problem that is tough to deal with and to address because... And again, as you said earlier, some of these lawmakers, not exaggerating, some of these people who are in office making these laws and pushing these laws and passing these laws and blah, blah, blah with these laws don't even own a cell phone and don't have concepts. Again, 70-year-old white guy making a law or pushing laws or passing laws to enforce internet regulations when you are open to everything.
Ultimately, it comes down to it'll be interesting to see. Again, this is a big bad baddie in the background that is coming into play come January 1st. It'll be interesting to see how they hold whose YouTube is going to be the first one fined.
And do you think that's going to be the case? We're going to need that martyr? Oh God, that's the last thing I need to see is PewDiePie becomes a martyr for the internet.
Oh boy.
PewDiePie gets fined for violation of C.O.P.A. He gets fined X thousands of dollars
for the last 600 episodes.
Assuming it all, because at that point, if you're gonna, because I would assume if you're gonna,
because then you could nitpick what defines an episode.
Well, no, at that point you nitpick like. He, in his defense, say, well, this episode potentially could violate it. This does it. This doesn't. I clearly swear on this one, so this one's not for children. And how many hours? How many man hours? Like, how many episodes does PewDiePie have?
Oh, I have no idea.
Thousands of episodes that he releases? Which is how many literal minutes?
Right.
How many minutes of someone's life? How many man minutes?
Can you think that in the next 50 years you could be referencing PewDiePie versus the state of California
against the United States?
A law against the United States, like Brown versus Roe, or Roe and Wade? Like, misquote my law there, but I'm just saying is somebody will use PewDiePie in the literal law definition.
I can't imagine a judge or a lawyer
now
making a straight face. He's just like, PewDiePie versus the United States of America. Like
Supreme Court.
Oh, my goodness. Seeing PewDiePie with a straight face hurts my bum. But no, I mean, it's an interesting thing that could happen. It is an interesting rabbit hole to fall down. And we're still kind of falling down it because we're living it.
Yeah, we're going to probably talk about this in 2020 a couple of times. Who knows? Again.
Who's going to be the martyr? Who's the first martyr?
Exactly. Who's going to take that first multi-million-dollar fine because of X episodes of questionable child privacy?
Well, yeah, advertising to children or violating C.O.P.A. And it's funny because it's not even going to be a multi-million-dollar fine. It's immediate bankruptcy. Like, no questions asked. It's, hey, you're bankrupt. I'm out. Boop. And then, because it doesn't seem like there's jail time or anything associated with it.
It's just fines.
So it's like, here's a bunch of fines. Cool, bankrupt, peace.
Again.
But do you use that bankruptcy to push to your defense?
I'm telling you, it confirms like that alone, for the fact that it only generates revenue, makes me think that it's something. There's a underlying effect of network television that goes, oh wait, you want to?
I think
you want to do YouTube? You want to be a content creator?
That.
Come to network television.
I think it goes way beyond that. Like, I think that, to me, that is petty by network television to try that, because they are also pushing their own streaming services. They could also become
streaming services. Streaming services is different than content creators like YouTube. I don't equate the two.
Okay, but does the law equate the two? Just because you don't equate the two, does that? And that's something we're gonna have to look into for sure. Unless you already know, then
And
hit us up on Twitter at Grey Muzzle Geek, or, drop us a line at greymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com, or, poke us on our Patreon.
And any of the people that are YouTube fans for any creator, they do stress that the FCC are taking comments that to advocate for the platform.
Legitimate comments. Don't make poopy potty jokes to get a laugh out of it. Like, this is a case where I think the government knows that they're behind, and they'll listen to
intelligent comments about how to better make YouTube function within our world.
Because realistically, at the end of the day, it's YouTube needs to be responsible for this. YouTube needs to take responsibility and say, hey, we are the gateway. We should not be allowing 13-year-olds as per advertised.
Right.
Like, we stipulate that you need to be 13 or older to enter the site. If a kid gets on through whatever means, if they get on for whatever reason, it's up to them.
Right.
Like,
mom, dad, parental guardian, whatever it case may be.
14-year-old watching
they also
Pornhub
need to be held responsible.
Like, are you sure you're 18? Yeah, 18. Click. Like, but they've already waived the right to that.
Yeah, correct. So kind of to move on.
So yeah, let's move on to the next segment we've got here, and this one we're going to call Adventure Awaits. Adventure awaits! So what Adventure Awaits is going to be is where we get to chitter-chatter a little bit about some of our adventures and our things that we've done to make ourselves entertained, and very personal stories, so to speak. This is where we get to bare our ass a little bit and talk about, I don't know, me vomiting in a bathroom because I'm trying not to get my friends thrown out of a fancy bar dressed as a Viking. Or we talk about something that we saw, something that we drank, something what we did, and we figured we'll tie this up into a nice little segment where we can focus on, this is something that we did, we thought it was neat, and maybe you guys should try something similar in your neighborhoods.
So this week's Adventure Awaits for us is personal because we took the opportunity, holiday season coming up, and weather being cold and bleh.
The fact that it's dark at 4:30.
Right.
Like, seasonal depression is a thing, guys. Like, it exists. There's no sun at 4:30, and you're just like, well, crap.
Now
it's
what?
Dark, it's gloomy, it's cold, so I can't just go play disc golf. I can't go for a walk. I mean, you can. You're just going to be wandering like from A Christmas Story. And what do you do? Like, how do you brighten your own spirits? And Midwesterners are really good about this. This is where I'm going to kind of pat ourselves on the back because Midwesterners are really interesting people.
Resourceful.
We're resourceful for sure, and we find ways to stay entertained. Usually it involves 100-watt light bulbs to simulate light, but we like to do things and be interested and do adventures to stave off cold and the insanity that comes with being cabin fever, basically locked in your house doing nothing. So, what do we do for this week's adventure?
So this week's adventure found us in the lovely city that we're close to.
City of Chicago, baby.
I am from the South. Yes, we've talked about it before.
You're from Illinois South.
Southern Illinois.
Let's not equate you to the South. Like,
I'm from Southern Illinois.
Yeah, you're not from Bible Belt South. Like, Roll Tide, Crimson Red. Like,
wow. Wow. Anyway, I have always had a fear of driving in downtown Chicago. And luckily, my co-host, Red, is from Chicago, so he does not fear the traffic that is Chicago. So when we have a actual Chicago downtown native ask us to come out, he is willing to be the driver and take us on adventures.
I can parallel park like a motherfucker.
I've seen it. It's really impressive. However, so this week's adventure found us in downtown Chicago in what I would say is a vintage bar.
So they advertise themselves as a French-inspired,
Parisian.
Parisian-style, speakeasy-esque establishment.
Called Victor Bar.
And it is, to say it is small, does not give you
I have been in high school hallways that were bigger than this place.
It is a narrow and long bar. Like, when you walk in, it's dark. They very clearly make it like there's what?
There's atmosphere.
There's atmosphere. It's noisy too, but it's noisy with conversation.
Yes.
Not a lot of music. There's music playing, but it is all conversation, and it's neat because if you take a second to like close your eyes and kind of tune into just your hearing, you could pick up the variety of conversations going on, and boy, are they interesting because you don't realize what people talk about in a crowded area when they think nobody else is listening. Because realistically, nobody else is listening.
Right.
Like, the worst thing you could do is whisper. Or try to, like, because that's going to draw more attention. Like, one of the things that I've learned from playing a rogue and being roguelike is just speak a normal voice. As soon as you try to change your cadence or change the volume of your voice or anything, you're going to draw attention. But if I say, oh, yeah, no, I killed these 4 people, and they're buried underneath, like, in a crowded
Nobody's
area,
hearing you.
You'll be surprised how many people just completely tune you out. But if you just, like, lean in, like, hey, I killed... Like, they're going to be like, wait, what? What's going on? So, it's real. So, this place is, like, 20 feet wide, maybe, a little bit shorter. Like, the bar's long. This whole I don't say building, but this room that we're in, this first floor building is long. But it's narrow.
Yes.
And you have a bench, some tables,
and then the bar.
a body to stand,
Yeah.
chairs for the bar, and then the bar. So realistically, shoulder to shoulder, you could get 1, 2, 3, 4 people. And at that point, that fourth person is sitting at the bar.
Okay.
You have one person sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
And the bench goes like basically from the front door all the way to the back.
Yep.
It's a long bench. And then person number 2 would be these silver tables. They're like studded silver tables lined up. Person 3 would be basically standing in the aisleway. And person 4 would be sitting at the bar.
Yeah. That's a good... I could definitely confirm that.
And then person 5 would be the bar. Person 6 would be... 6 and 7 would be working behind the bar.
Yep.
So you're literally looking at 7 to 8 people wide. Not me people. Like, I'm small
Normal people.
Normal people, 7 people wide, and you're going wall to wall. But lengthwise, had what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 or 8 tables. So you're looking at 15 to 20 people wide.
Yeah.
Or long. And then there's a bathroom back there and everything else. So it's not a big... How many people do you think were in there? It was full.
I would say maximum, like, fire emergency...
Violations?
Max capacity. I would say maybe 80 people could be in there. And that's literally people are breathing each other's air.
Yeah, that is the... you farted and we all are breathing that, for sure.
So we went and it was peak hours. I mean, it's Friday
Friday
o'clock,
night.
9 o'clock.
And we're not ragging on it being small.
Oh,
too.
it was...
It added to that atmosphere because you are...
You are going there for that atmosphere.
And what is it exactly? What is this place?
So it's like you said, it's Parisian speakeasy.
It's a straight up cocktail bar.
Absolutely.
No food. No beer. Well, they had a couple of local beers, like 2 or 3 local beers.
But you are going there for
cocktails.
They are poured. Yeah, they're known for their old fashions, and as you've heard some of our ice clinking just this episode, both Red and I are old fashioned fans. So the person we went with kind of knew that, I think, and so he chose this bar. So we met them at the bar.
Hi, Ian. Our little Cylon Ari.
We met Ian at the bar and had an amazing time. It was Friday night, 9 o'clock. Again, winter. You know, there's not snow on the ground, but it's cold. So you've got people kind of cozied up because it's cold out. You got coats in the area, things like that. But I would say maybe 60 people were in there.
Yeah, probably.
So they were busy, but they weren't packed because basically
some areas. It got a
basically
little
it's the
packed.
type of bar that you got your date or you got 3 or 4 people with you. You walk in the door and there's not a place in the bar. They're turning around and they're
Sure.
leaving. They're not going to stand and wait. There's not a hostess sitting there going, how many people.
You
It
settle
is-
up to a bar or a table. You grab a seat and you go. That's really the only negatives I can say about this place, though.
We did luck out. Ian did already have a
that
spot
was
picked
beautiful.
for us. So we sat down and I had probably, I think I had 4 drinks.
You had 4 drinks.
I started with a old fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
It was very simple. It was very clean. It was,
You had a bourbon old fashioned.
I had correct.
I went with
you
a
went
rye.
and Ian went with a Vesper. Or no, I'm
No.
sorry, not a Vesper.
It was the salty cucumber drink or the salty celery drink.
Celery drink, yeah.
I don't even remember what it is.
It looked ecto green.
Yeah, Ecto Cooler, baby.
Ecto Cooler green, and it was very celery forward. And
It was celery forward, celery middle, celery back, celery to the left and to the right.
it was unique, though. It was interesting. And
I enjoyed
think
it.
that's what this bar is kind of going for is, hey, let's take a spirit and let's see what we can do with it.
So I want to say, in case that they're listening, one of the things right out the gate was it was one of the friendliest staff that I've dealt with. The waitress was really awesome.
Knowledgeable.
It was super knowledgeable, really friendly. It's loud and busy, and you could see maybe it's just the way she spoke. She made sure her words were clear and concise. That working in a place that's loud.
Right.
You don't want to mumble words or anything else. She's like, hello, what can I get you? And like very visible with her lips too, because there's a level of lip reading going on. It's loud. It's loud in there. It's a lot of, and again, it's not music loud. You're not walking into a club and it's bumping.
Atmosphere loud.
There's people talking. There's people having a good time, having some drinks. And so she's like, okay, what do you guys want? Blah, blah, blah. So we got us a couple things on the menu. I was driver, so I only had my 2. And we were there for about 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours.
So I knew if I could do 2 and then just sit back and drink a lot of water, and then knew that we're only driving a couple blocks away. So I was in a good place. But so our first rounds were the bourbon old fashioned, the rye old fashioned, and the celery drink.
The celery drink. And then both me and Ian went with another drink. I went with something with scotch in it, I think. I don't remember what it was called. It was scotch. It had some pineapple. It was good. It was a little bit more on the fruity side than I usually like my drinks. Ian ended up getting something else with mezcal.
Yeah, mezcal, yep.
And it was smoky.
It was a very smoky drink. What did I say? It tasted like a dentist office or like a doctor's office?
Yes.
Because it had a Novocaine taste or something. It was good. Don't get me wrong, but it definitely was. He's like, yeah, I expected it to taste this way. Like it was very mezcal forward. It was very.
I would say my favorite drink of all of them was they had an option on there of dealer's choice.
So tell me about that. Tell me about what dealer's choice was, because this is where I was really excited. This tells you that the establishment knows their shit, knows what they want to do, and are willing to have fun. Like, as a bartender, if someone goes, you know what, make me a drink. What happened?
So the waitress, and I had been to another previous kind of speakeasy type place before this, and it's funny so happened I was talking to Ian about this trip that we went to previously.
Cheers to Norcut.
But the waitress asked, she's like, do you want something that is more flavor based or flavor forward, or do you want something that's more spirit forward or more liquor?
The first question she asked you is what kind of alcohol, what kind of spirit do you
Correct.
want? So if you're in for, because I know Ian also asked for a dealer's choice.
Correct.
And asked, like, what do you like? And he's like, well, I like gins and vodkas.
I like more, well, that's just it, is the waitress asks what kind of spirit do you like, and then asks you, do you want flavor or do you want more spirit forward?
And that is shaken or stirred.
Correct.
Shaken will be a little bit more fruity. It'll be a little bit more
diluted.
Additives. Yeah, additives, I guess. So you'll taste like a margarita is shaken.
Right.
You don't taste much of the tequila in a margarita. That's kind of the point, though. The tequila's there to mess you up, but you taste the lime, you taste the other ingredients.
They are more forward in the drink.
An old-fashioned is stirred. The bourbon is, or the rye, is the
Flavor. The flavor profile.
Everything else sits in the back.
It's the more melody in the back of the show.
So anybody that wants to know Drinking 101, your differences between your shaken drinks and your stirred drinks are going to be, you know, if you're James Bond up in here, you get shaken, not stirred, jokes aside, shaken, not stirred, your shaken drinks are going to have other flavors that aren't going to be the alcohol forward, where your stirred drinks are going to be, I want bourbon.
I want to taste said bourbon.
I enjoy said bourbon, but I like the other notes. I like the sweetness of the simple syrup, or the hidden notes of whatever bitters you're using. Because some places use orange bitters, or I have orange bitters myself currently. They'll do different kind of simple syrups. So like I've done a simple syrup with brown sugar to get a molasses kind of going on. So you dance with those things. So it's cool right out the gate. They go, "What's your spirit?"
Kind of, right.
And how forward or back do you want that spirit?
And for me, it's always bourbon. And the drink that was brought out to me was called
It was a name. I can't remember it now.
Something Jones. Bobby Jones.
Bobby Jones.
The Bobby Jones. And it was a blended bourbon, or blended...
It was a blended scotch.
A blended scotch. And I want to say there was something, and you picked it out, and I can't remember exactly what it was. Because it was essentially the bitters that they used in it, because it was lemon spritz, and blended scotch, simple syrup, basically,
it's kind of like it's basically a Scotch old fashioned in a way.
Yes,
but they kind of played with more of a the lemony spritz on it.
Yeah, it had almost like you said, it had kind of a medical taste to it.
That one had more of a lemon pledge. Not in a bad way though.
It wasn't. I really liked it. It was my favorite drink of the whole night. Ian also got a dealer's choice, but he went with gin as his spirit
I think they went
choice.
vodka with him.
Oh, that's right.
They did vodka with him.
So he went clear spirit, so vodka. And it was more lemon based. It tasted like a lemon Fruit Loop. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed this bar. I had a great time. They unfortunately on Friday the 13th.
So what are the odds that on Friday the 13th that their credit card machine would go down?
Went down at 8:30.
Well, yeah, it went down at 8:30.
Yeah, while we were there, it went down.
It went down, but we left at 10:30, 11 o'clock. So we had to get cash.
Right.
But, again, thank you, Ian. What did we do after that? We got to the establishment with the intention of, hey, let's ask and see if we want to do this. Ian said yes, you said yes, I said yes. So we left at around 11-ish.
Right, because it wasn't that far away.
Got to our, as John Mulaney would say, secondary location. And went to where?
So the location we went to...
In Andersonville, where I died.
Correct. It was down the street from one of the bars that we went to, ironically enough, for the Viking bar crawl. But it is the theater in which, and I say theater loosely because it comes to find out it was a old school.
School.
Old
school.
Was the Neo-Futurists presents The Infinite Wrench.
Now, I have seen these guys at the Midwest Fur Fest, and it is interesting because they are not, traditionally speaking, furries.
They are not.
They are not, I don't want to say involved in the furry community because clearly they perform at a FurCon, but they're not furries themselves. However, the interest in the community is there because, as we said before, the furry community has a tendency of having a large LGBTQ plus community.
Correct.
And they are supporters, big supporters of said community. So it's basically a match made in heaven. What, though, are the Neo-Futurists, you may ask? And what is the Infinite Wrench?
So the Infinite Wrench broke off from previously known as Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind. They perform 30 plays in 60 minutes. And you kind of sit back and go, as our guest Ian did, and go, what? Basically, it is freeform theater that is written, produced, and acted by the people that do it.
The Neo-Futurists.
Correct. So they have, on any given night, they do 3 performances a weekend, I think, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon.
At 11:30 at night, correct.
They do 50 plays, or 50 weekends out of 52 weeks a year.
Yep.
And they do 30 plays in 60-minute time. Sorry, I keep dyslexia that number.
So it's dyslexia. Dyslexia. Man, keep drinking, sweetie. So, like I said, I ran into them first at Midwest Fur Fest some years ago, and they show up every year and do a fantastic job. And it's interesting for me to have seen them in a main stage environment where you've got a couple hundred to 1,000 seats.
Yeah.
And then their actual home in Andersonville, where you see, what, 100?
Oh, man. I want to say, it's intimate. It is an intimate theater. It's probably not the most intimate I've been to, but it is very...
It is a small environment.
Yes.
Which is cool, because it's their home. They could do whatever the hell they want. They flat out say, this isn't for children, this isn't for... Like, if you're on drugs, this is not going to be a good time. Like, it is a cool experience. And the thing about it is, again, as Dusty said, there are 30 plays, and these plays are written, and if I'm not mistaken, having like kind of talked to them, 2 of the plays, because you have a cast of like what? The cast varies, obviously, because it's kind of also a teaching school as well.
Correct.
But the cast has probably 6, 7, 8
that
are performing. Because you have obviously one up in the DJ booth, and but your main performers are like 7 of them. 2 plays per person have to be personal.
Yep.
Have to be something that affects them. Now, admittedly, we had a little bit of a skewed showing because we got to catch them on their Best of 2019 weekend, where normally they do the 30 plays in 60 minutes.
However many they get through is what you get.
And it is. They set a timer. I know at the convention they set just a big loud timer, but I know on the wall at their home base they have like a darkroom timer set out for 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. And if they get through the plays, cool. If they don't, show's over.
Yep. Go home.
You don't have to stay. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Yep.
It's done. 12:30. Go home. Well, obviously because it's their best of, they're like, we're gonna go through all the plays to kind of celebrate it.
And I think it's also it's important to mention that their best of week, because they only do it for the week, is on their anniversary. So this happens correct, December 2nd, 1988. They've been operating for 30 years. They decided to every week of this year, or every week of the year that they're performing in, they do their best of. Mm-hmm. And so it happened to be that week that we were there, and we got to see all of the plays. They got basically their best of 2019, which I went on record saying to both Red and Ian that I had a feeling that might have been the case, because you can't really vet those best of plays being only less than 2 minutes long.
And that's the trick about this whole show. So they have numbers X through X. It's basically 30 pieces of paper on a string over the stage. And you're handed a menu, air quote, with those numbers X through Y. And they're play names, like... Give me some play names. I could look at some right now.
This play is 4 titties long.
Some of the plays are...
Apologies to elephants.
Custom Ranch. I promise I will definitely catch your phone. Bedfellow. Scat Play. Like, all these terms are on there. So what your goal is as the audience is when they say scene
Next.
or next, so it used to be scene,
Got it.
but next, you as the audience blurt out a number.
Yep.
And they randomly jump up and grab a number. Now, the point of that is that they then perform that play, whatever it is. And the timing, that's why for the best of it's a little weird, because some
Again,
of the plays...
the time vetting for that,
Yeah,
I
some
think
of
that is off.
The play, this play is only 4 titties long. What do?
Two
Scene.
people flashed
They lift up their shirts
for 2 seconds.
for 2 seconds, put it down, scene's over.
Yep.
Whereas the other one of the, was it A Fistful of Dollars, Mama and Baby on an Errand,
Was like 12 minutes long.
It was like a 9-minute play because he got on a horse, on a fake bouncy horse.
Bounty horse.
Some people from the audience picked his ass up and carried him out to the street, to the corner where he bought a pack of Altoids.
All while being filmed by one of the actresses.
And being shown on a projector. So I'm not going to give away anything else, but that's kind of the weird stuff that happens.
It's live action theater. It's free, like I said, free form theater. It's different every time you go because these people really do write these 2-minute skits, basically.
And some of them are made to be funny and silly.
Some of them are personal.
Really personal, and you could see the ones that are thought provoking.
Yep.
Some of them that are made to make you that start off kind of funny. Happy Birthday was a good one. That makes you look and you kind of laugh, and then as it goes on and progresses, you kind of like stop and start to think and really start to either feel feels or get a deeper sense or even a connection. And again, I go back to some of the stuff from Midwest Fur Fest a couple years ago where some guy from the city, he was talking about some of the racial tension that's there. And, there's a guy that was going around pushing people into the tracks on the L. And obviously, if you hit the third rail, you're pretty much dead. Like, you might survive it. Chances are you won't. But he would get worried that he would get pushed out onto the...
It's always the yellow line.
It's that yellow line there. So it's a case of some very personal stories and whatnot, and it's just weird to see it not weird, but it's interesting to see it intermingled with some comedy, some stuff that hits you and then ends with comedy, some stuff that starts funny and then hits you, and it's kind of randomized because it's off the crowd. They shout, they run the play, go.
I think for me personally, one of the reasons why I've loved it since the day I watched it, because my first experience was watching it as it was being recorded live at MFF, one of the years that I ended up not going. I feel that every play that they put on they're passionate about it. Every time they do it. It may be the same play that they've done a handful of times. But every time it's being done, they feel passionate behind it. There's energy from every one of those players on the stage. They
on the field. Fantasy football still in action, folks. Playoffs. Anyway.
So I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed the intimacy of the play, basically the stage, the playhouse. Being that I am from a theater background,
Nerd.
It just... the vibe, the energy, the entire atmosphere of that show was great. And I my face hurt. My face
you were
physically
smiling.
Hurt after the show.
You were smiling the whole damn time.
Because it's just fun to watch. And every one of the audience members there is there for the same experience you are. It is spectacular, and I urge anybody that thinks that they could have the enjoyment coming from something like this, because it's not for everybody. It's not for everyone.
It's not a traditional play.
It's not a traditional play. It's
not,
even the way you pay at the door is not traditional.
That was actually kind of fun.
It just we
won't spoil it,
right?
But
however, it's just they personally are not. They're basically publicly funded, so they have a way of getting money so that they continue doing it. But It is just a cool atmosphere that's not necessarily for everybody. I wouldn't imagine you taking your very staunch, very rigid Aunt Kathy to a show if you didn't understand what
if you
you're
have a
getting
very
into.
red family, they're not coming to this.
But
it won't not appeal to them too, though.
You just have to have an open mind.
Sure.
And the experience is just one of a kind. And the best thing about it is I could take, Ian could take somebody that comes to visit him next time, or we could take somebody else that comes and visits us. It's just a unique experience every time
And it's a different show.
Absolutely.
Because everything is going to be different. The plays are varied as well, because and I'm looking at the menu, air quote, menu here, they went from 62 to 91, but those plays changed too. They've done 10,000 different plays.
10,891 over the last 30 years is the final number.
So they may pull some of the oldies out. And one of the oldies I remember is they took 2 audience members, brought them up, basically asked for their wallets, and then the 2 performers used the wallets to do a dating scene.
Right.
Hello, my name is, and he pulls out the ID, John, and you are, and she's like, oh, rifling through the purse, Stephanie. What do you like to do, Stephanie? And rifling through the purse some more, pulls out a gym membership card. I like to work out on the weekends. How about you? Stuff. So there's a level of improv there too. There's a level of messing with the crowd. There's a level of
we saw someone hit an egg with a bat.
Yeah, that was his thing. Hit an egg with a bat, boom, done. Somebody threw a cell phone.
I promise I will catch your cell phone.
And it was just that. He put on a baseball glove. There was a drum roll. Somebody threw a cell phone at him. He caught it. End scene.
Yep.
So it's little goofy things like that. And then there's moments of, legitimate
theater.
Well, it's all theater, but there's legitimate connection and legitimate thought, inspiring stuff. So it keeps you on your toes, which I think is the big thing about it. It really does keep you on your toes mentally. It's like those workouts that they did in the movie 300. I don't know if you're familiar with those. They did these workouts that were made to shock the body. It wasn't just hey, we're going to do arm day. We're going to do leg day. It's you're going to push a monster truck tire. Then you're going to do 50 burpees.
Did we happen to go to the mental equivalent of CrossFit?
Yeah, kind of. You know what? That should be the Infinite Wretch's new mental equivalent of CrossFit. Because you are experiencing a multitude of emotions. Again, I'm dead inside, so it's the minimal level of emotions.
It's okay. Some of us carry your heavy weight for you.
You cry a lot. I know that. It's
Aww.
okay. So it's a case of you're not really gonna know what you're dealing with, and they just do stuff for you, and you just go in for the ride. And again, I think Ian even said it best too, of just I could read through the menu again and not really remember some of the plays.
But I remember how it made me feel.
But I remember how it made me feel, and I enjoyed every minute of it. So that was
our adventure.
That was a hell of an adventure. What did you guys do for yours? Let us know on Twitter or, Facebook, or send us an email. graymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com. We'll be happy to share some of your stories if you'd like to. All right, well, thank you for joining us again for another week at Gray Muzzle Geekery.
And always, we are all geeks. To be otherwise may very well mean to live without passion. Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Gray Muzzle Geekery with Dusty Red and Dusty White.
You can support our continued geekery at our Patreon website, patreon.com/graymuzzlegeekery. Be sure to check back often as we start to add geek cred levels.
You can send your questions and comments to us at graymuzzlegeekery@gmail.com or find us on Twitter at graymuzzlegeek.
We can be found on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Buzzsprout.
And a special thank you to Pepper Coyote for our intro theme. And if you like what you heard, you can find more of his stuff on Spotify, Patreon, or directly from his Bandcamp page.